Mulan has finally arrived into Rise of Kingdoms. We're going to unlock her today and review everything that we wanted to explore about this commander, whether or not her abilities stack with Joan of Arc, in what order you should invest in her skills, and some of the best commander pairings that we can muster for this brand spanking new legendary in Rise of Kingdoms. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and we just unlocked none other than Mulan. I'm really excited to see exactly how this commander works and to take her for a spin. If you like Rise of Kingdoms guides that help you get value and smash your enemies, consider smashing that subscribe button for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos, and boom, baby, we launch new videos the second that new commanders go live. First and foremost, we need to summon this commander, who we got from an event that is lasting for 15 days. We don't have any other information about how this commander will be available, whether you can get her sculptures from Gold Keys or Expedition or wherever. All we know is that there is this 15-ish day event, and if you log in during that window, you can summon her. So let's do that now. Bada boom. Now, of course, one of the best things about summoning a new legendary commander is that you get the old Writer of History bundle. If this is a thing that you're buying or if you're spending in the game, this is a relatively cheap way to get those legendary commander sculptures. I'm going to go pick this up real quick. Okay, bundle obtained. There we go. Free-to-play players especially should be excited about Mulan. This, of course, is going to depend in part on how we can get her sculptures. The reason that Mulan is so powerful is that she is offering, that's right, 15% of attack, defense, and health, and also a bunch of march speed as well, and upwards of 25% march speed to nearby allies. I mean, we need to go take this for a spin and see exactly how it works. Before we do, I just wanted to review very quickly the fact that if I want to get more of her sculptures, right now it's indicating I can only use universals. I'm sure they're going to put her somewhere else at some point, whether it's Gold Keys or Expedition. It would kind of suck to use your universal legendary commander sculptures, which are very precious and expensive, only to have her show up in Expedition. I want to caution you at the start of the video that I would not recommend using universal legendary commander sculptures on Mulan until we really understand where she's going to come from. Okay, that's very important in my opinion. One of the biggest mistakes I've made is using universal legendary commander sculptures on commanders that I ended up with a ton of from Gold Keys. Right up in the top if you want to see that video. I go way in depth on that. Now, in terms of skill order, this is a commander where you must max the first skill, and then you're going to want to max the second skill. Although Mulan doesn't do any active skill damage in her first skill, her second skill does make it so that when she gets surrounded, which is inevitable, people should try to focus out Mulan, she is going to reduce their rage, and that is very, very powerful, okay? That is a very powerful effect. So you want to max the first skill, then max the second skill. The third skill is all about experience gain, and given that we don't yet know where these sculptures are going to come from, I still feel like you want to optimize for combat effectiveness rather than barbarian hunting, and experience you can get other ways. Combat effectiveness you cannot get easily. So I would recommend you max the first, max the second, take to 4 stars, and boom, from there you can apply more sculptures, and you better hope they land on the fourth skill. But if they don't, well, at least you'll get more experience battling barbarians. Now, interestingly, Mulan is a commander that is best served as the secondary. The interaction that we should be most interested in, however, and the reason you're probably here in this video, is to see how Mulan interacts with commanders like Joan of Arc. This is very important, okay? Historically, buffs overwrite each other if they're stronger and don't apply if they're weaker. Well, if this buff to attack, defense, and health is all packaged together as one buff, what happens if the Joan of Arc buff is already active? Will you get other stats that would have been less than what Joan of Arc gives? In other words, this is giving stats to attack, defense, and health. Joan of Arc, as an example, she's going to give 30% of stats and a different stat for each troop type. So if you've got 30% health on your infantry, do you also get the 5% attack and the 5% defense that the Mulan would be offering? I don't know. So we need to take these two commanders for a spin, like right now and figure that out. Okay, let's bring them onto the battlefield. Now, the interaction with Joan and Mulan here is very interesting. We're going to use Joan primary. Joan is going to last her buff for 4 seconds. So that should overlap with what we would see from our buff from Mulan. So this is going to tell us the information we need. Plus, we get to see what her skill animation looks like, which is pretty cool. So we'll bring a couple different troop types, whatever. I don't want to bring too many troops. I actually want to see the animation a little bit. And let's go battle a barbarian, which have literally all been obliterated. Now, as we walk over, here's the way this is going to work. Joan of Arc is going to fire off her active skill. In the next 4 seconds, there will be buffs applied to that march. Now, there's going to be a second of downtime, and then Mulan is going to apply her buff. In the next turn, we're going to see Mulan's buff applied. So it's 3 turns after Joan of Arc has done her ability that we're going to see Mulan's ability and also Joan of Arc's ability stacked together if they do in fact stack. Now, what if they don't stack? I mean, that's going to be kind of weird. If they don't stack them, we'll see which one overwrites the other, right? Or at all. I don't know how this is going to work, which is why we've got to get this test going. But if it didn't overwrite each other, I mean, do you want the rage? Is that a separate effect from the stats or not? I think it might be separate, which would mean I still feel like you'd want the Joan just for the rage. I don't know. Let's see what we get over here when we hit this barb. And then we'll look at the report after we knock this thing out and we'll do some analysis. Okay, combat is in. Here we go. Joan of Arc doing her thing. She's going to fire off that active skill, and we're going to check out Mulan's new skill. Also, the area of effect radius is a good radius, thank goodness. The radius is very, very solid. It's identical to Joan of Arc's, so that is just a massive area of effect. That's fantastic. I was a little worried that the area of effect might be kind of like Theodora's, which would have been problematic. I mean, it would have been fine, but like, I don't know, can you imagine if it was like rectangle-shaped buff area? William. All right, so this barb is about to go down, and then we get to figure out what the heck happened in the log. And this is really going to strongly indicate like just how good this commander is ultimately going to be. So now we make our way over to the log with Mulan. We favorite it, and let's get a look in the battle log. As we make our way down, we see over here, okay, Joan of Arc's troops gained endurance, cavalry formation, and archer inspiration, and an inspiration effect. So actually worth mentioning, these are 4 different effects at the time of the buff, which is good to know. So let's see what happens in the subsequent turns. You can see the rage gain and the different stats. Now, continuing into the next portion of the log, here is where we should see the active skill of Mulan, and there it is, filial piety being cast, and now it is applied. Now, what do we see? If we look here, total health increased by 5% due to the ultra endurance effect, and we still have the infantry health effect of the Joan of Arc. My gosh. They legit straight up stack. Oh, that's too good. Oh my goodness. Well, friends, they straight up stack. This is how you would assess it. This is how you know that not only do you get all of the goodness of your Joan of Arc, you get all of the goodness of Mulan and those buffs too. I need a moment to process. I don't know if you remember when I said a while back in a live stream that they'd never make a legendary version of Joan of Arc because it'd be too good and it'd basically be mandatory. Mulan is too good, and she's basically mandatory. This seems insane for big brawls. Particularly, I'm talking about Ark of Osiris, I'm talking about Ancient Ruins and Altar of Darkness, I'm talking about Kingdom versus Kingdom. This is the free-to-play queen you've been looking for. In addition, by the way, to the Joan of Arc, both of them still very viable. The thing that I like the most about the Mulan is that she's going to go in and give you a little bit of survivability here, and maybe survivability is not quite the right word, but it is going to punish the attacker for swarming her down, which I think is a good thing. I do feel, however, that Joan of Arc is generally a fairly vulnerable commander. And I mention this because if you're in the early game of Rise of Kingdoms, and a lot of players are, you might be thinking like, gosh, I'm going to use the Joan of Arc and Mulan combo. And I'll say that that is going to paint the biggest possible target on your back. Now, if you watch my live stream today, and I'll have a card up in the top, we were battling in KVK Season 2, and we actually got to spend a lot of time running around with a Joan of Arc Ethelflaed, just like buffing and debuffing freely without much contention. So you may be able to navigate a situation where you can use the Joan of Arc and the Mulan together very expertly to be buffing your allies and also be able to survive on the battlefield, which I think is pretty impressive. But if I'm looking for some free-to-play pairings, a few things come to mind. One that I think is going to be pretty sick, and by the way, oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about. There's Canyon too. I mean, like, this commander is so good. Can you do Canyon without this commander? I don't know that you can. 45% of stats for all marches. I guess it's only 2 seconds, and maybe the march speed is eating up some itemization that we don't care about. But if I'm looking free-to-play first, and then I'll go big spend. For free-to-play players, a commander pairing like a Sun Tzu as a primary is going to generate just a lot of rage. Use that Mulan secondary in order to just have those buffs kind of cranking out. The only downside here is you're not taking advantage of the extra skill damage that you would get with your Sun Tzu, which is, okay, admittedly, a little bit of a bummer. Again, I really like the Joan of Arc pairing as a kind of premier pair. And when I look to other choices, I mean, there's really not a lot of other epic commanders that I would want to pair with. At the legendary tier, I do feel like a very, very obvious choice for a debuffing slash buffing combination is going to be that Ethelflaed primary. And I like the support tree for elevating the tankiness of the march. I like the mobility capability here. It's hasty departure. That is very, very powerful in navigating the battlefield. And again, you could see that in the live stream I did today, where I used that to great effect to escape really bad situations and be relatively fine. I mean, I still got a little bit of trouble, but I do think that the primary here with the Ethelflaed is a solid play. I think the leadership tree is fine. Mulan doesn't really care about the troop type. In fact, she's buffing everybody, which is totally fine. The Ethelflaed's also great in those big brawls because she's going to hit 5 targets. That's a lot of damage factor when you think about it. And otherwise, her abilities are all really quite good. A few other pairings that you could go get a look at would be Saladin primary with Mulan secondary. I like the support tree for just powering out that active ability from the Mulan. And the Saladin is already very, very tanky inherently. I like the mobility from having cavalry and that extra march speed. I think that would be a pretty solid pickup. I also really like Alexander the Great. I mean, there is some real phenomenal utility going on here. You're shielding everybody, which is really good. You get the 30% march speed, which is really good. You're buffing everybody, which is great. You don't have quite the rage engine that I would like, but it kind of doesn't matter. People don't generally focus down on Alexander the Great. They look for softer targets. So Alex primary with a Mulan secondary should keep her somewhat safe as you navigate the battlefield. Another commander I'm super hyped about. Bring all cavalry, use William. Oh my goodness. This has got the rage engine. I'm going to assume that the buffs do stack from the William. Gosh, does the William buff stack? I don't know if the William buff stacks with the Mulan buff. All right, we can test this. We've got 2 targets stacked on top of each other. Let's see if the William buff stacks with the Mulan buff, which is going to fire in a second. I can't believe I got that. I can't believe I got that to work. Let's see if these two stack up, all right? We'll go look at the log and figure this out. I even got 2 barbs for the price of 1 on commanders I'm not trying to level up, but whatever. Okay, we're in the log. We see William's buff is cast, Hidden Bloodline. We get the 10% total defense boost and 10% damage increased. That's quite nice. And extra skill damage from buffs cannot take effect. Okay. Scrolling on down. This is when Mulan's active skill should apply, and there should be 1 turn of overlap of all of their abilities. Let's see what happened here. Yep, they stack. They all stack. Gosh bless. That is freaking amazing. William gives the 10% army formation effect. And, yeah, okay. The army formation effect stack. Well, that's really quite remarkable and powerful. So, Mulan stacks with William's ability too. This means there's a lot of marches that a free-to-play player can bring to have insane value that they offer to their alliance members. You could have William. You could have Ethelfled. You can have Mulan. And you can have Joan of Arc. All of them are crazy good. Not to mention other commanders that offer great utility as well. I mentioned Saladin earlier, right? With that great healing reduction and march speed reduction. Man, those seem like some really great combos. Other places you could put a Mulan. Just a protector. Like, you could drop her behind a Richard I. I'm like, yeah, I mean, you might get beat on a little bit because Richard I is generally a slow commander, but you could put her behind that Richard I and kind of hide her there, and that would go really well. You could also hide her behind the Charles Martel, very, very tanky commander. People are going to want to avoid it. Then you got the Mulan behind there, so people got to focus on it. I like that idea as well. Commanders I would really avoid and advise that you avoid are squishy commanders like Genghis Khan, squishy commanders like YSG. This doesn't seem like a very natural pairing to me here. You're going to lose a lot of utility. I wouldn't really pair her with a commander like Double C, who, like, yeah, he's got mobility, but man, I don't know. I mean, if you want to like sneak in and activate your skill once and have to run away, like, you could do that. But I think the commanders I've already mentioned, oh gosh bless, there's also Constantine. William, Constantine, you've got Joan, you've got Ethelfled. There's just so many options here to pair with Mulan. Is there any one best thing? I don't know. They all do different stuff. Constantine, I don't need to check to see if his abilities stack because this is a different sort of family of abilities anyways. This is damage taken reduction, which is not at all related to stats. I was very impressed those stat buffs actually stack. I was not expecting that. All in all, Mulan is looking like she's going to be an absolute beast on the battlefield. She's going to be basically mandatory in a Canyon lineup, I think. Probably in a backline capacity, but entirely possible you'd put her in the front line because there's a chance when she's surrounded to have counterattacks reduce the target's rage, which is kind of amazing. You can only counterattack when you're getting normal attacked, so there's the argument there to kind of have her in the front line. So it's debatable. I don't know. I mean, this could very easily kind of replace your Joan of Arc in that lineup because the volume of stats is just so overwhelming. I do think the rage generation is really incredible, but I would not be surprised if you now have 3 potentially free-to-play commanders that are all but mandatory in Canyon. Your Joan of Arc, your Ethelfled, and now your Mulan. The question really remains, hey, how am I actually going to get sculptures of this commander? And I truly do feel, until we know, you should save your universals unless, gosh bless, you're in a critical war and you feel like this is the difference maker. If you're an Arc League and you think this might be the difference between winning and losing your match, but even then, what an astonishing investment to potentially go and make, only to find like, hey, you could get her free in the expedition. I just can't even imagine how that would feel, okay? So we're all excited. She's here. Now we have to wait patiently to see where she shows up next. Cross your fingers it's an expedition, and if not there, maybe Gold Keys is even better. In fact, I'm going to assume it's not an expedition because you can use your universals on this commander, whereas most expedition commanders, you cannot use universals. You have to go in and use only the sculptures you get from the expedition. So I'm going to make the claim now. Gold Keys is probably where this is going to be. Maybe Card King too. That seems pretty reasonable. Probably not a Wheel of Fortune. And what this might mean, weirdly enough, with the way they released this commander, we didn't see her in this list. We didn't see her in this list until, boom, suddenly we could see her. That might be because she was a regional commander and then they made it available in our region. Originally, she was only available in China. Or it could be they've added the capability in the game to just hide from the players which commanders are available until they're actually like here and they show up. So it's entirely possible that new commanders are waiting for us for Mightiest Governor and the Wheel of Fortune, and that we'll only kind of know what those are in our message board over here. Oh, message board's kind of changed a whole heck of a lot. That's going to be a topic for a separate video. But you used to be able to go into the message board and see like, hey, so, what events are coming up? Maybe that's over here in events. Nope. Nope. Okay. I guess we got to do it the old-fashioned way and look over here, right? Like, we could see a new commander sculpture, like, show up over here and, like, boom. Normally, we have a patch and then new commanders are here. Maybe they'll just pop right in and here they'll be. We'll do more detailed guidance on how to use Mulan. Even though you want to use her as a secondary, we'll come up with some builds for her as well in a separate video. Consider throwing a like on this video and subscribing for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos that help you get value and smash your enemies. And if you're looking for something else to go and watch, I'll put a card up in the top for a video about Joan of Arc, who everybody should be using Joan of Arc, especially if you're free to play, and also a video about Ethelfled, and just warning you a little bit about what it's like to use her in the open field in 2020, which is a really good reason why you might consider hiding your Mulan behind a commander that is very tanky and can really offer a lot of protection simply in the form of deterring an enemy from wanting to attack that combination. Until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom. And let me know down below in the comments what you think of this commander and what some of the best pairs might be.